doesn't matter how you're feeling. You have to do your fucking job. It's not that you have to be good at PT. You have to try hard at PT.
Hear the devil calling. Hear the devil calling. Well, I hear the devil calling. Gotta pay him what he's due. I can't stop the dogs of war. I can't stop the dogs of war.
World's greatest leaders, welcome. This is your host JP, and I want to start by saying I'm sorry for having a long time without dropping an episode. I really apologize making you guys wait. I've been having a lot of good feedback. I have a lot of people asking me, when's the next episode going to drop? When is this coming out? I mean, just to explain myself, I was away for an Army school, a leadership course, and fortunately I graduate in 3 days. And I can come back to just going heavy on just making you guys some more content. I'm working on an episode with a good friend of mine that he has his own podcast. I'm not going to share it right now. You guys will find out in the future. But I'm trying to make an episode where you guys get to know a little bit more about me. And we're going to move away from the leadership style, talking to senior leaders, talking to junior leaders in the military, in the Army, in the Army. Mostly, and we're just gonna talk about our perspective, right? It's gonna be awesome. You guys are gonna get to a little bit know more about me, about your host. And we're just gonna take a break from just interviewing people, and we're just gonna come out here and talk to you guys about stuff and drop a lot of knowledge as far as my knowledge goes. I'm fairly new to this all this stuff, and I'm figuring it out as I go. But we're just gonna talk. We're gonna have a good time. No interviews for that episode, but we're kicking it off with a great episode. I'm telling you guys, this guy is phenomenal. He is very smart, extremely fit, and you guys will understand why I believe this guy is such a good leader. But not just that, such a great person. He's very intellect when it comes to his job. And you can just tell when he's in the room. A leader is someone that just sends off the presence right when they walk in the room. And this guy definitely shows that. I'm not going to delay this anymore. I've been talking a lot. But just stay tuned. It's going to be a great episode. I'm sorry for the delay. And let's have some fun. Hope you guys have a great day. All right, Cody, how are you doing today?
Doing good. Got up this morning with both my kids.
All right.
Had breakfast and made my way over here.
I'm surprised you didn't go for a run.
I was trying to find the motivation this morning, and it just didn't happen.
All right. Before we start anything, there is something that I really want to talk to you about you and Max and y'all's obsession with short shorts. Why is that so big between you two?
The shorter the shorts, the faster you run, and the deeper your squat.
Okay, I don't think that makes a lot of sense.
No, it's science. It all started actually back when I was his section sergeant, and we went on for a run, and he wore the shortest shorts you've ever seen, and I was like, well, I have to beat that. So I got shorter shorts. And then it was like the next time he showed up in shorter shorts, and it's just been a thing now ever since.
I think the only time I've seen him in pants was the time that he's at work in uniform. Other than that, he's always wearing some short ass shorts.
If you go to his house on any random day, he will be wearing tiny short shorts and some sort of athletic sweater.
Yeah, I'll probably beat his ass if I was Stephanie or something. All right, before we get into the interview, fucking short shorts. Before we get into the interview, we gotta get warmed up, and I'm gonna throw you some hit questions, some situation questions, and it's called the Mad Minute, right? And none of them we were able to finish. Do a 1 minute.
Okay.
Max was the longest. I think it was like a 23 long Mad Minute. Talk so much. But I'm just gonna hit you with some questions, and I'm gonna see what do you guys see if you're ready enough for the interview. All right. Are you ready?
Ready.
All right. What's your favorite alcoholic beverage?
Beer.
What kind of beer?
Right now, Zeugels.
Is that German beer?
Yes.
Oh my god.
It's so it's made here in the Oberpfalz. It's like the beer of the Oberpfalz.
Oh. I'm not a big fan of German beer. I just like my Corona and lime.
Yeah.
Right. What's your biggest pet peeve?
Oh man, that one's a hard one. Laziness, probably.
Are you more of a superhero guy or a villain guy?
Probably superhero, I guess.
If
That's
we
a
s-
hard question.
So who's your favorite superhero?
Aquaman.
Really?
Yeah,
Why?
because he protects the oceans.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is probably the corniest and cheesiest answer I've had here so far.
So I was never into superheroes, right? And now my son loves superheroes. So you have to be into whatever your son's into,
Yeah,
right?
you're absolutely right.
And so he's into all kinds of different ones. And I never grew up with them, so I don't know anything about all the superheroes. I was never a comic book guy or anything like that. So he's kind of forcing me to get into them.
If you can go into a bar with anyone in the world, past or present, have a drink, and ask that person one question, who would that person be? What question would you ask? And what would you be drinking?
It would be, I'd have to say Jimi Hendrix. And I would ask him how he wrote Little Wing,
Okay.
and we'd be drinking, probably beer.
Are you a fan of Jimmy or something?
Yeah, big fan of Jimi Hendrix. And when he wrote Little Wing, great song, but apparently it was a filler song on his album, and he like wrote it because they just needed another song, and it was like one of the best songs. Like he wrote the lyrics and the guitar and everything, and apparently like 5 or 10 minutes.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, that's talent right there.
yeah.
What was the last thing you did in public and you were glad that nobody saw?
Well, they did see though. The last embarrassing thing I did, we were over at Pratt's house for a birthday party.
Oh, thanks for the invitation.
Well, I can't invite you if I'm invited. That's rude. So the kids all like took paint and they drew on shirts, and we put them over the banister to dry. And of course, I leaned on them, and then I have different colored paint all over my butt now. And I couldn't get it all, so I had to turn around and ask my wife to wipe my butt off. So everybody's watching my wife wipe my butt in like the middle of a room.
I mean, it's not embarrassing.
It
It's
was,
funny though.
It was slightly embarrassing.
It's funny. What was the last movie that you watched?
Robin Hood.
Robin Hood.
Yeah, with my kids.
I was assuming that. What was your first car ever?
It was a 99 Dodge Neon purple.
Why did it have to be purple?
Well, it didn't have to be purple. It was broke down in my sister's yard.
Oh.
And my sister, I needed a car. And she was like, well, if you can fix that, you can have it. So it was the starter and a water pump.
Yeah.
So I changed both of those, and then I had a car for pretty much free.
What's your favorite football team?
I don't really watch sports, but
What a weirdo.
I know, right?
You wear short shorts and you don't watch sports.
I know. Yeah.
All right. If you were to watch a sport, what would you watch?
Probably CrossFit.
Yeah.
Does that count?
Okay. If you were chief of staff, what regulation would you add or change? Probably going to be something related to PT and CrossFit.
Well, I think that PT is actually headed in the right direction. It's the buy-in you have to get with the program. Mm-hmm. They've put all the policies and everything in place that needs to be in place, and now they just need that lower level leadership to actually do what they're supposed to do and not continue to run every single day.
Says the platoon sergeant that takes his platoon on a run every
If
day.
you ask anybody in my platoon, we do not run every day.
You just told me you run every day before we started this.
Do some sort of running every day, but we do a lot of weightlifting,
Okay.
a lot of circuit training.
Hey, PT is good though. PT is good.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I don't really think that if you're running 5 miles plus every day, it's bad. But I think if you're keeping a little bit below 5 miles, it's definitely not bad for you.
No, I think you can run every day and you're fine. But running is one of the biggest causes of injury.
Yeah.
So there has to be some sort of compromise between running and, I mean, if your entire platoon is running their 5 miles in 40 minutes, then do you really need to keep focusing on 5 miles? Maybe it's time to focus on strength now.
Yeah.
But if I was to change anything, I would figure out a way to empower NCOs more and hold them more accountable.
Can you go into a little bit more depth with that? And maybe an example.
Yeah. So a lot of times we have a lot of things that are ran by officers.
Yeah, you're right.
And why is it ran by officers? Because some NCOs not stepping up. And if those NCOs with a lot of knowledge would just step up and actually do their job instead of letting officers run everything, the Army would be much more simple.
Yeah, you're right. I mean,
But not saying that we don't need officers, because we
Yeah.
do. But we need them to do their job, and we need us to do our job.
Absolutely. If you were in an airport and an airline gave you a ticket to go anywhere in the world for free, you can't go home and repack your bags. You just got to get on the plane and go. Where would you go and why?
I would go to one of the islands in the Pacific along the Great Barrier Reef, like somewhere near like Papua New Guinea or something,
Okay.
to go diving and surfing.
I mean, I never surfed, but I always want to learn how to surf. I feel like it's way too hard. What is the hardest school you went through in the Army?
Oh, that's a hard one. Because they're all hard in their own aspects.
Yeah, but there has to be that one that you were like, damn, I don't know if I'm going to pass this. And then, boom, you graduate.
I think that when I went through ARC, that was one of the hardest ones at the time. And the hardest part about ARC is you never know how you're doing in the class.
They don't give you no feedback throughout the entire class? You just,
Not really.
Yeah.
Like, you never know whether or not you're good or not. And when I went through, the instructors were just handing out green cards like candy, which green cards you get 3 green cards, you fail the course. And I didn't get a green card, but I was always worried because in that course, it's like everything's a test, but nothing's a test, right?
Yeah.
So, like, you go on a run and you come back and there's a test over the run. And you'll be like, what do you mean there's a test? I thought we were just doing PT. And then you're like, well, I'm pretty sure I just failed that test. But then you never get the results from the test.
Not even after you graduate?
Not even after you graduate.
It's kind of like SFAS.
Then they had like all of our names on a board, right? And they put symbols next to our names.
That you guys don't know what it is.
That we didn't know what they was.
It's probably just trying to psych you out.
So, and then the symbols would change every day. What we're sitting here in ARC, like, oh, well, everything's a test. So this is some kind of test, or maybe it's rating or whatever. Tried to figure this out the entire class. Turns out it was nothing. Just another thing to mess with us.
Yeah, just trying to mess with you guys.
But when I went to that course, it was coming back from, like deployments and global war on terror kind of fighting. So I didn't know a lot about, reconnaissance and security doctrine. So learning all that stuff was really difficult at first.
Yeah, I mean, we train like the force on force and actually doing like what a cavalry unit is supposed to be doing. But then when you go to Middle East and you're just doing corn operations and you're like, well, what do you mean I'm not going to sit in OP in the woods for 24 hours?
But you do sit on OPs inside of hills for a long time,
Yeah.
up in the mountains. I mean, there's still a fair amount that applies. I think it's just the force size that changes.
If all jobs pay the same, what would you be working with?
I think I would still do this.
Really?
Yeah.
You wouldn't try to do like SF or be a Navy SEAL, or I mean, if you want to be a badass, you just might as well be the top of the badasses. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think that those are all really cool. I really like being a scout, honestly.
Wow.
I like being mounted. I like having a truck.
I hate trucks. I hate being stuck to. I would love a truck if I was now that I'm a dismount, I like it.
But
Being
you
a
get
gunner-
that go between of being mounted and dismounted, and I like training soldiers.
Yeah, you did tell me that you like teaching. I just hate being attached to a truck. Like if you're a gunner, you like can't really do nothing.
Yeah,
but
being a
stay
gunner
like that.
kind of sucks.
Yeah.
That's probably my least favorite job of. Yeah, being a gunner sucks.
I just want to be on the ground. Like if you, I just want to be on the ground doing some straight unconventional shit instead of just being attached to a truck.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess any way you look at it, you're attached to something.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, maybe you're attached to your team more than, or you're attached to your patrol base or whatever it is. You're attached to something.
Yeah. What is one skill that you would like to have that you currently don't?
So one of the things I always wanted to get into was woodworking.
Like carpentry and shit?
Yeah, just like being able to build stuff better.
Oh.
And I always like I'll watch the like little clips on stuff on Facebook that'll come by where it's like some dude like whittling a table leg or something.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And I always think that looks cool. Probably gonna get into that when I'm an old man.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably very time consuming.
Yeah.
Have you ever felt invincible?
No.
What?
No.
There's never that one thing you're like, damn, I feel like I'm never gonna die now. But then like 5 minutes later, you click back to reality, and you're like, yeah, I'm not invincible.
No, I don't think so.
Who would be a movie character that you would play in real life?
A movie character that I would play in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that's a hard one. Like that would play me if
Yeah,
my movie was like if me like I was a sitcom or something.
No, like you're watching a movie, you're like, damn, I wish I was doing that right now.
Oh, okay.
Like Magic Mike or something.
Oh man, I wasn't ready for that question. Hold on, let me think. Because I'm immediately going towards like war movies because of what we're talking about right now. But I don't think that would be it.
Yeah, I would not want to play in a war movie because both of them die.
Yeah,
I don't want to do that.
Man, Aquaman. Going with Aquaman.
Oh my. I mean, your son would be your biggest fan, so
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, no, he doesn't like Aquaman.
So he would be your hater,
Yeah.
I guess. If you were president and you had the power to pass one thing in Congress with a guaranteed approval, what would you pass?
Oh man.
It's starting to get harder and harder from here.
Yeah. Something where you give more rights back to states. States' rights, I think, are really important, and letting those states make the decisions that best govern their states instead of having everything made by the big government. Something along those lines, like give more power back to the states.
I mean, you rather do that instead of just having everybody on the same page, like everybody with the same gun laws, everybody with the same.
Well, I think it's hard to say like, well, this one law benefits every single state. Like, if California doesn't want to have guns, then like, okay, California doesn't have guns.
For that,
but you know, if Georgia wants to have all the guns, then let Georgia have all the guns.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, like
you're right.
Then just don't live in that state if you don't like the laws.
If you could go back in time and do something different, what would you do?
I don't think that I would change anything.
Really?
No, I think like all the failures and stuff along the way has made me like think the way that I do now.
All right. Speaking of failure, what is your greatest failure in life?
Greatest failure in life. Probably my senior year in high school.
Oh boy,
Yeah,
good old days.
good old days. Typical little punk rock kid who was too cool for school. And ended up having to go to summer school to graduate because I just stopped going to school altogether.
My mom would beat my ass if I said I wasn't going to go to school.
Yeah, I didn't have a lot of oversight over what I was doing, so it's just kind of like, Cody, make all the decisions on your own, and I made poor decisions.
Yeah.
So I think I would go back and try a little harder.
All right. I mean, I know that you're really into CrossFit and WODs and all that stuff. If you could do a WOD with whatever equipment you need anywhere in the world, where would you do that WOD?
Wherever Matt Frazier's doing his WOD, and I would just do it next to him, because I would like to work out with that dude.
Right.
I don't think there's anybody who works out as hard as he does. And when you have somebody working out that hard, it makes you push yourself harder.
Yeah, you're right. Who could win a fight to death? Private Knapp or Sergeant First Class Knapp?
Oh, Sergeant First Class Knapp, easily. Yeah, Private Knapp.
Is there anybody between Private Knapp to Sergeant First Class Knapp that would be Sergeant First Class Knapp?
Probably Staff Sergeant Knapp.
Why is that?
He was a lot meaner.
Oh, what does that mean? All right, we're going to the last one. What's the best piece of advice that you can give someone?
If you work hard, it'll pay off.
Yeah.
Just whatever you're doing, just work hard at it.
That's all you got to do. And that concludes our Mad Minute. That took 19 minutes. You are currently in the second place of the longest Mad Minute.
Only to Max.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I should have elaborated more on some. Now I'm second place to him.
Yeah, just like
which is my full-on rivalry for everything ever.
Just like the whole shorts situation.
We're in competition about everything at all times wherever we go.
I remember a time that this is before you even got here. I remember I was talking to him and I wasn't really talking to him. He was talking to someone and he mentioned your name and I'm like, Knapp, that name sounds familiar. And I was like, is he with Drill Sergeant? And he's like, yep. Is he a redhead? Yep. I was like, damn. So the first memory the first and only memory I had of you before you got to the unit was when there was this whole situation in OSA in Fort Benning where we had someone took your troop's guide on and from Ambo Troop took our guide on or whatever, and a couple hours later I see big old round hat come in and just start destroying us. And I'm like, who is this asshole? That was like the first time I ever got smoked in the prone row in a forward lunge. Like I never got like fucked up on that. But I remember you talking about you got to get your back strong, the prone row, and I'm like, oh my god, dude, when is this gonna stop? And you started dumping lockers, and then all I hear is, I'm not gonna say her name, but, hey, Joe Soren, do you let your guys have orange peels in your lockers? And check this, he wasn't even my Joe Soren. He just came over to just fuck us up just for fun. This dude, the dude that found the orange peels ended up having to run to DFAC and grab 2 oranges, and the man had to eat them in the friendly arrest without peeling. The dude had...
I didn't make him do that.
Well, you caused it, so I blame you. The dude had he ate an orange in a peel, like with a peel, just like an apple. And I think he had oranges for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for like almost a week.
We had a big rivalry between Alpha and Charlie Troop, and like most of the senior drills at the time, we all went to drill sergeant school together.
Okay.
So we were all like really good buddies, and that's why like Alpha was always messing with Charlie, and Charlie was always messing with Alpha.
I didn't have a lot of airborne drill sergeants. I think the only one was drill sergeant Meacham. I have no idea what he's doing right now, but he was probably the coolest of them all. Did you have you work with drill sergeant Clark, right?
Yeah.
How was he?
He was cool. He was a really good drill.
He was.
He was mean.
Yeah, he was.
But he was one of those guys that didn't have to try to be mean.
Yeah, he
just like the way he talked, you were like, I'm kind of scared of that guy.
Yeah.
He had that real deep voice.
Yeah, I remember the time we're marching in the defect, and I don't know what happened, but he while we were marching, he's like in this guy's face, and we're passing right in front of Alpha Troop, and he's in this guy's face, and the minute we stop calling cadence, all I hear is "you little bitch," and I'm like, oh shit. Yeah, it was good, but that was a good time. Those passes. Do you remember the whole orange peel situation, or?
I vaguely remember. I don't remember finding orange peels. I do remember going over to Charlie that day, and just having a talk with you guys about
taking guidons and shit.
Taking guidons, like just hey, just don't do that again.
Yeah, that's definitely not what happened. Don't talk like that. We had a dude try to take one of Amber Troop's guidons right like here in Germany.
Yeah, that was like a brand new dude too, right?
Yeah, and then the worst thing is that I sponsored that dickhead.
So direct reflection of your leadership.
Actually, it's not. Well, I just sponsored him. It's not my fault, but apparently his PL was like, "Yo, go take that guidon," and his dumbass went and took the guidon.
Man.
Well, the worst thing is
he's getting in trouble too, right?
I don't know. He's a weirdo.
Yeah.
But and the worst thing is that someone in our troop, that I'm not going to mention their name, went over to Alpha Troop and snitched on the dude to First on Cameron.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, no loyalty. I see how it is. But all right, enough bullshit. We're gonna get into the interview. I know you guys are ready to listen to this guy talk. I'm excited. I'm very excited because he's a pretty cool guy, and I'm pretty sure he has a lot of fun stories to tell about. Before we get started, can you just like briefly talk about yourself? What have you done in the military? Your achievements, any awards that you got, or stuff like that.
So came in the Army as a scout, just like most of us. Deployed to Afghanistan pretty quick after I got to my unit. That was a interesting time because it was one of those like I don't even know what I'm doing, and then
I'm just here.
Yeah. And
what unit was that?
So that was 473 Cav in the 82nd Airborne.
You stayed in 82nd for a long time.
I was in the 82nd for a long time. So 473 Cav disbanded and became 2501 Infantry when they disbanded the 4th Brigades. So deployed pretty quickly after I got there, and so I volunteered for Advon, right? Which is like where you go before everybody else. So I had like offset leave, right? And I didn't know what it was. I was just told that.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it.
I just heard you should volunteer for stuff, and it'll make you not a shithead. So I was like, okay, because Private Knapp, I messed up everything. One of my favorite stories from young Sergeant Knapp, and this is where I learned that you don't talk to first sergeants.
Really? I mean, I think it changed now because
it definitely changed. It changed, but you still don't just go up and ask your first sergeant questions unless you're first sergeant Pumphrey.
Yeah. Or first sergeant Woodard.
Yeah. So there I was, young private, and someone hands me a stack of 5988s, and this is easily my first week in the unit, right? Brand new, don't know nothing. And he hands me the stack of 5988s and says, go PMCS the vehicles. And I was like,
what the fuck is a PMCS?
I just said, roger that, So I walk out the front door of troop, and I quickly realize I don't know what PMCS means. I don't know what 5988s mean. And I don't know where the trucks are. So I'm just standing here staring at these papers, all confused. But I don't want to go ask the platoon sergeant because he seemed mean. And I don't want to ask Sergeant Leiden. I don't know if you guys remember Sergeant Leiden or not, but
he was your platoon sergeant.
He was my senior scout.
We talking about
Rick Leiden,
the redhead.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
I mean if Sergeant Leiden, if you listen to this, I'm sorry, but I saw you the other day and I was like, damn, this dude does not look like he's in the Army no more. You had a whole beard, glasses.
Yeah.
You had a little gut. I'm like, damn, this that guy. That's crazy. What a small world.
Yeah. So, I'm just standing there staring at these papers all confused. And my first sergeant walks by and was like, hey, young warrior, what do you need help with? And I was like, first sergeant, I don't know. I was just given this stack of paperwork and like told to PMCS trucks. I don't even know where the trucks are. And he was like, oh, too easy, man. I'll help you. So their first sergeant walks me down to the motor pool, shows me where the trucks are, explains to me like the bumper numbers and what they all mean, and shows me how to PMCS a vehicle. Mm-hmm. And I keep seeing my platoon sergeant in the background, and he's just pissed. And I was like, I don't know why he's so mad. Like, I'm doing everything he asked me to do. And because at the time, the platoon sergeant's offices were in the motor pool.
Oh.
Yeah. So, yeah, like.
What shit is that?
Well, that's just where they were. They belong in the motor pool, right? Down there doing maintenance.
I guess.
And so first sergeant shows me how to PMCS all these vehicles, and then a couple hours later, old Sergeant Lyden has to teach me that I don't speak to first sergeants.
Sergeant Lyden, great guy.
Yeah, he is. He's a really good dude. So anyway, so
he's
I deployed.
Probably the most airborne person I ever met.
Yeah,
he's very airborne.
He's one of the dudes that made me want to be a Jumpmaster. Him and this guy who's my other section leader, Sergeant Tate. Both of them were that's when I saw Jumpmasters, and I was like, those are the most professional people I've ever seen.
They are professional as fuck.
And
I got a dope picture of you, James, behind me on that foreign.
Oh yeah, that was a good one. Yeah,
it was a good picture.
So deployed to Afghanistan, and that was definitely a life-changing experience, your first deployment. And then came back. I'm trying to think how long we were back for. So we were back for about a year and a half, probably. Mm-hmm. Then I deployed again, this time as a sergeant. And that one was a 9-month deployment.
Is it shorter than the first one?
Yes. So short of my first one was 12 months. Jeez. And then a 9-month. So the 12-month seemed shorter than the 9-month because the 9-month you don't get R&Rs. There's like no break, nothing to look forward to besides just leaving.
Yeah.
Whereas when you have a 12-month, you're like, well, I'm going on R&R in 4 months. So like, and then it's like you're on the back end of it and you're like, oh, well, now I only got, this long.
Yeah.
Because your R&R is only 2 weeks, but it usually takes you a week to get home and then a week to get back. So you're really gone for a month.
Yeah, that's
yeah. Jeez. So it's actually like a good break.
Yeah.
But so yeah, then I deployed again, came back, got promoted to staff sergeant. I'm still in the same platoon right now that I was originally in. So I went from
so you went from private to staff sergeant in the same platoon?
Same platoon.
Jeez. That's good, I guess.
Well, but majority of the people changed.
Yeah.
Like a lot of them ETS, we got new sergeants in, or then, new staff sergeants in different things, new platoon sergeants.
Yeah.
So while I was in the same platoon, it was always different people. So then the squadron shut down, and we got reflagged to be 2501 infantry. So now I found myself being an infantry squad leader. And I did that for about 6 months. And then I went to 173 Cav, and that's where I met First Sergeant Pumphrey. Mm-hmm. And I was in his platoon for a year, exactly a year. And then I got picked up for drill.
He did say that you were probably the shittiest section sergeant.
Yeah. Well, he was the worst platoon sergeant I've ever seen.
Yeah. Probably the worst first sergeant, too.
Yeah. So then I went drill. I was drill for 3 years and then came here. Been a platoon sergeant for a year. I've been to ARC, and which is the Army Reconnaissance Course, and then the Cavalry Leaders Course, Jumpmaster School, all the NCOES education you're supposed to go to, and then all the like little additional duty schools like Master Fitness and things like that.
Yeah. You would go to Master Fitness, you
Yeah.
CrossFit head. So when you think of a good leader, what are the attributes that you're looking for? So like when you have a new sergeant, like when first sergeant gives you a brand new sergeant. Let's say for example, if that trade would have happened, hey, Sergeant Abb, this is Sergeant Gomes, and what are the stuff that you expect from them?
Yeah. So I thought about this because I was like, Max told me it was going to be like leadership focus was kind of the topics. So I think that it changes for each rank, but let's say it is E5, right? So what do I expect from an E5? He should know every single level 1 task. So any one of the machine guns, he should be able to go on and, pass it to GST. He should know all about the different missile systems that we use, the TOW and Javelin and, here shortly the Carl Gustav.
'Cause he got to teach that stuff.
Yeah. Well, he should be the assistant instructor to the staff sergeant. The staff sergeant should be the primary instructor. So, yeah, it needs to do all that. PT is obviously huge, but you don't have to be perfect at stuff. You just have to be willing to learn stuff.
You gotta be hungry.
Yeah, and then I think that rigorously enforcing the standards and discipline, right? Now, when I say standards and discipline, I'm not talking about the old school sergeant major standards and discipline of like, well, if you don't have a haircut, how are you supposed to win wars, right?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about that. So like discipline is if we have, if the trucks have a certain SOP that they're required to be in for loadout, are you enforcing that to happen? If there's 19 steps to emplacing an OP, are you ensuring that the soldiers meet all 19 steps, or are you just letting them cut corners? If there's a squadron PCC checklist, which there is, right? It's like at least 100 pages long, right?
It's long as fuck. There's like all kinds of like got radio PCCs, PC. I'm like, geez.
But are you actually enforcing that when you do it? And that's the standards and discipline that I usually think of. And then majority of the other stuff is just trying to learn and being like you said, like being hungry. Are you ready to step up?
Yeah.
And then we have 3 different sergeant positions in a scout platoon, right? You have your tow gunner, which is a sergeant position, and that's not a leadership position. That's just a tow gunner. You're not responsible for any soldiers. So then you have your dismounted team leader, and you have your 2 TCs for tow trucks.
So it's 4, I guess.
Well, it's 5 sergeants altogether.
Yeah.
But 3 different positions.
Yeah.
So then each one of those positions require, you should be able to be in any of those 3, but usually you start as a tow gunner, then go to TC, and then after you're done with that, I usually move them to the dismounted team leader.
That's the fun stuff. I fucking love being dismounted. So what made you want to join the Army? And when you joined, did you expect that you would become like a leader that you are today in the organization?
So I joined the Army, like many people, because I got in trouble. I did not plan on joining the Army, but had a long talk with my dad about the direction that I was headed, which was not a good one. And he kind of convinced me to join the Army. And he said, I want you to be like a dental assistant or, like something that would be, useful in the civilian world, right? And so I came back from MEPS and I was like, Dad, I'm going to be a scout, And he was like, why would you be a scout? That's my job. Because my dad was a 19 Delta in the Army.
Was he airborne?
He was.
Oh.
And then so was my grandfather.
Damn.
Yeah. And he was like, that's like literally what I do. Like, no, do something else. And I was like, no, this is badass. You don't even know what this is. And he's like, that's my job, dude. And
you know who you talk to right now?
Yeah. So I was like, well, I'm doing it anyway. And I think he was mad at first, but he ended up being proud in the end. Did I think that I was going to be the leader that I am today? No, I didn't plan on staying in the Army.
Everybody that stays in is like, yeah, I didn't plan on. But stayed in. Knocked up a girl. Had to stay in.
Mine was after I became a sergeant, and then I realized that I can affect change.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually found after I became a sergeant, I was like, man, the Army is really fun. And then I wanted to stay in.
Okay. Well, what was a significant moment in your career that made you be the leader that you are today? That's something that impacted you.
So the thing that really made me the way I am. So we were on patrol in Afghanistan, and one of my really good friends, he stepped on an IED, and he lost both of his legs and his arm. And I was right next to him, and it was kind of that like where you just go into training, and I put the tourniquets on him and stuff, and we got him medevaced out, and he lived. He's doing fine. The next day we had to go back on patrol, and I was so fucking scared.
I would be scared of my life. I'll be what the fuck.
I was fucking terrified, right? But I knew that my dudes were also scared.
Mm-hmm.
And so my section sergeant, he was back in the rear because he got blown up the day before that.
Jeez.
So him and then two other dudes from my section were all back in the rear because they got blown up and they had to get evaluated and stuff. So now, young Sergeant E5, I was a section sergeant now, and I had to go back on patrol, and I remember like not talking to myself, but kind of talking to myself like, look, dude, you can't be fucking scared because like all these dudes are scared.
Yeah.
And you got to get your shit together.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the next day we went out and we got into another fight. And then that was just when I knew like it doesn't matter how you're feeling, you have to do your fucking job.
Yeah, absolutely. And
that was kind of like, yeah, that one just kind of like solidified a lot of the things that I think about. Like, it doesn't matter what you feel about stuff. You just have to do your job. You got to worry about your feelings on the backside sometimes.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. When Max came on here on the first episode, he mentioned a story about when he kind of like forced you to go home to have dinner with your wife and your brand new son.
Yeah.
He said that you were extremely pissed, but did you learn anything from that? Like, how did you really feel at that time?
So Max taught me a very valuable lesson that day, and that was you don't matter as much as you think you do. If your platoon relies on one person so much that person can't go home, then you're failing somewhere.
Yeah.
But I was a young, hungry staff sergeant, and I wanted to make sure everything was perfect always. And yeah, he made me go home. Called my wife.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, I called his wife and I was like,
he's coming home for dinner. But Max also, he was very good at like taking care of those who work hard for him. Yeah. And he knew that probably for, it must have been like a month, we had a big problem with getting the trucks ready.
Till this day, we still have a problem with that.
And so I just kind of made my platoon do a lot of drills and broke it down to what each person's responsible for. And I wasn't inventing anything. I was just, reverberating doctrine, like the gunner's responsible for this, the driver's responsible for this. But the platoon was not on the same page with everything. They're a bunch of really good dudes. They just needed direction. Mm-hmm. And so I provided them with some of that direction, and they got good about it. But he realized I put in all this work, and I needed to let it happen and stop micromanaging in a way. And yeah, everything was fine. But yeah, I was mad.
Max is probably one of the greatest leaders I ever met. He knows like the perfect balance of balancing work with the welfare of the soldiers and accomplishment of the mission. He's a phenomenal leader.
I've learned more about leadership from him than I think anybody else I've ever met.
One thing that he taught me that's always interesting to me: you do not need to be an asshole to make things work.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you see sergeants and staff sergeants being a douchebag to someone, and I'm like, there's no need for that. I mean, if you just talk to the person, you're always gonna figure that shit out.
Yeah.
You need to be. I think you need to have tough love. So I learned that from someone that I really admire and that I work with, and he taught me that you don't need to be soft, but you don't need to be hard, and you can still get stuff done.
Well, I think there's times that you do need to yell.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one of the tools that the Army gives us as well is corrective action, which is push-ups and things like that. And it's a tool that can be used. But it shouldn't be the only tool. I'm sure every sergeant major and first sergeant out there, they talk about your tool bag, and it's just one of the tools inside of your tool bag, right?
What are your plans for your future in the Army? And what are your plans for the future?
So I want to be a sergeant major, and of course I want to be a squadron sergeant major. But my real big place I want to get to, and I'm not sure of the position, what exactly it is. I assume it's going to have to be somewhere in the Maneuver Center of Excellence or in TRADOC somewhere. But I want to redo the NCO education system because I think right now that it's kind of crap. I guess to put it bluntly.
Do you think that our sergeants get promoted too easy?
No, I don't think so.
Are you a fan of automatic promotion?
I'm not a fan of automatic promotion, but I think the way that we look at things needs to change, because it doesn't matter whether or not I'm a fan of it or not. It's the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
And the reality of the situation is we're not promoting enough sergeants, so the Army took it in their own hands to promote people.
I don't know. I'm if I could be sergeant major, or if I could be someone that can make a decision like that, something that I would change. I would stop with like automatic promotable. I've seen so many specialists that like get automatic promotable, and they're over here trying to go to BOC and all that stuff, but they're acting and being all buddy with the privates, and you're like,
well, so think of it like this, and this is one of the things I talked to my sergeants about, because they came to me with some of the same bitches and gripes. And there are things in place that you can do to keep soldiers from getting promoted, right? If they're not saying everybody deserves to be an NCO, but instead of that, look at it like when you get a brand new private, you have to look at it as you have 2 years to make him into the team leader that you want. Instead of looking at it as he's just another private. Start looking at it as like, in 3 years, he will be a sergeant. Is he a sergeant that I want on my team or not? And then I think you can start molding him. Like, leadership development starts day one, not when they're a specialist promotable.
Yeah, I mean that's what we do. We develop leaders, right?
Yeah.
What was the hardest decision that you made in your military career?
I don't really know. I know right now, like, one of the things I've been thinking about a lot is like, what should my next job be? Which it gets more and more impactful now. And like some of the things I've been throwing around is like SFAB or OC or ROTC, right? And all of them have their perks and all of them have their cons, pros and cons. But it's one of those, like, you make the wrong decision, maybe you don't make the next rank now.
Yeah. Whereas
I think before this, the Army kind of decides it for you. DA select for drill sergeant. Well, roger that. I'm going to be a drill sergeant. Like, I don't really have a choice about it. Before that, I didn't really have a choice of when I went to the board. It was you're going to the board. Okay, roger that.
Yeah, that's what happened to me. But
Yeah,
I was pumped for it when they told me I was going to board. I was like,
Yeah.
hell yeah, dude.
Yeah. So I guess on the bigger level right now is where I'm starting to think. I've been thinking about it for several months. I've talked to several people about it, and I still don't know the right decision to
Yeah,
make.
and you also got to think about your family.
Yeah.
Because they were like kind of like what. There you were. I want to say your support. I guess like.
Absolutely.
Hold your back.
For me, it goes both sides. Like if my family's, not doing well, then I'm not going to perform well at work either. Plus, like I always look at that. That's my job, is to take care of my family.
Yeah.
And then my wife always says, when work's not going well, you bring it home.
What does she want you to do?
We've talked about it a lot. I think she wants me to go ROTC. And I wouldn't mind going to ROTC either. I don't know if I want to be an instructor again.
I mean, you're different. It's a whole different like level of audience, I guess.
Well, and then I think about it too. Like, what impact do you have on instructors?
Well, you're building the Army's new officers.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. Do you think your leadership approach to when, like you said, when you're first developing yourself to become a leader to today?
Can you say that again?
Do you think that your leadership approach changed compared to when you first joined the Army? Like,
absolutely. I think that every level of leadership that I've been in, I've changed and matured and thought of things differently, and that has been the biggest sustained. Was every level you have to change and mature and see things from a different picture. Sergeant E5 Cody Knapp is completely different than Sergeant First Class Cody Knapp.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you. Even when you're going from being a specialist to a sergeant.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
See that. I think that's like the biggest change. Because from sergeant to staff sergeant, you're already an NCO. From transitioning from being just a regular Joe to a non-commissioned officer I think it's a pretty big step.
Yeah.
It's not the biggest step.
For me, it wasn't too bad going from specialist to sergeant, because all of the dudes that I was privates with were all gone.
Mm-hmm.
They'd all PCS or ETS. I was like the only one left in the platoon.
That's how I feel like now. I look around troop and I'm like,
yeah.
Who are all these people? I
Yeah.
don't know you.
So it wasn't a huge change for me. But there are definitely those people in the platoon where it's, they put sergeant stripes on with all their buddies still there as specialists and stuff, and all of a sudden they find themselves in charge of their buddies. And then it's like, oh, do I be a friend or do I be a leader? Or, where's the middle ground in this?
Yeah. What do you think is the most rewarding part of being a platoon sergeant?
I think so. This is me and Lieutenant Hernandez actually talked about this a lot.
We played soccer together.
Yeah, he's a really good dude, really good friend. And me and him together as a team was just it was phenomenal. Like, we worked together so well. So I've been doing this training program with my platoon for a while, which is just how I see training should progress. And right before Sabre Junction,
good old Sabre Junction.
Good old Sabre Junction, right? So when we pitched the platoon op order, right?
Yeah.
My staff sergeant pitched a portion of paragraph 1, and then one of my sergeants came in, pitched another portion of paragraph 1. He pitched like the entire enemy sit temp. Mm-hmm. Then one of my other sergeants came in. He pitched all of Okoka and light and weather data. Mm-hmm. Then, of course, the lieutenant came in, briefed the mission. Then while that was happening, he briefed his scheme maneuver. And then another sergeant came in. He briefed the scheme of fires, which he did. And then another sergeant came in and he briefed the IC plan for the entire thing.
The whole dry op order from the same person just saying.
Yeah. And they actually planned it. Of course, the lieutenant made sure that it was syncing up with him. But every single one of my NCOs was involved in the operations planning, and they were so pumped and excited about it. And then you had this level of understanding that was just unparalleled. And then, of course, going into Sabre Junction, these dudes just knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
I've never seen a scout platoon function so well. And they just did everything. Everything was amazing. Like, things would happen, and they would just immediately come up with solutions for it. And small things like we weren't getting radio signal, right? One of my sergeants just decided the best course of action is to run a long whip antenna up a tree. Did it. All of a sudden, we had comms with everybody.
That's good.
Yeah, we're talking to the general,
figure it out.
And it was just these problems would arise, and they would immediately think of solutions. And that's when I saw the platoon just at its apex, at its highest point. And watching them go from this dysfunctional band of heathens to this well-oiled killing machine was amazing.
Yeah, you're blue platoon, right?
Mm-hmm.
They do talk about infantry blue platoon, about being the second best platoon.
Second best.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You still got the Red Devils over there and Bulldog. You definitely would not have no competition with blue platoon and infantry. What, like maybe 6 months ago? But now, I mean, whole different. It's different now.
Well, and now we're back to we have a new platoon again. So we're going through all the.
You might have to come over. You got a spot?
Yeah, we always got spots.
All right.
I'm losing one of my key players right now, actually. So.
Ooh.
And he's my dismounted team leader, so I got a spot for you.
Who's leaving?
Sergeant Witt.
Oh,
those are some big shoes to fill,
yeah,
though.
that is some big shoes.
Yeah.
The dude has a fuck ton of knowledge.
I mean, when you look at my 4 team leaders that I have, right? I have Sergeant Power, stud. Sergeant Shepard, stud.
He was in Bulldog.
Yeah.
Came back.
Sergeant Witt,
he
stud.
Back.
Sergeant Guillen, stud. So I just have these.
That is. I have no idea who Sergeant
He's
Power
quieter.
Who that is.
Yeah. Sergeant Guillen's a little quieter, but man,
Is he the one that wears glasses?
Yeah.
I think I know what you're talking about. He's been here for a while though. I think so.
Yeah, he's been here for a while, but like his level of knowledge on like missile systems and machine guns and stuff, I mean, he's good.
I mean, if I wasn't leaving in July, I'd probably.
I'd just extend,
Yeah, I'm not doing that. All right, I've been in Germany for almost 3 years, and I'm happy to go back to the States. So we kind of hit on kind of this of what he expects from a sergeant, but what is your advice to a brand new sergeant for him to become like the best leader, the most successful leader that he can possibly be? Let's think about like outside of PT and
so I always ask my sergeants this in their initial counseling they receive from us: are you the team leader that you would want to have as a private? And if you can't answer yes to that question, then
you're fucking up.
Yeah. And I think understanding where we are, understanding our strengths and weaknesses is something we have to do on not a monthly basis, but like a daily basis, right? But here's what I see happening a lot. We're bad at something, so we avoid it. It could go anywhere. It could go from working out to, the Army, right? I'm bad with radios. So I'll let the other sergeant teach radios.
Yeah.
And I'll make sure that, this dude puts my radios in my truck or whatever the case may be. And instead of going, man, I need help with this, we just avoid it and let someone else do it. So knowing where you are and figuring out what you need to get better at, but then just, are you the dude that you would want to have? Are you the platoon sergeant that you would want to have when you were a sergeant or a staff sergeant or whatever the case may be?
Yeah, I mean, everybody can ask for help, and everybody can get help from anybody.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're a sergeant first class asking for help from a specialist.
Absolutely.
Hitting that, I mean, we're always in the military. You're always learning. Like I learn new shit every day. I'm sure learn new stuff every day. I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Sergeant Major learns new stuff every day. But who was someone that had the most influence on you and taught you something that sticks with you to this day?
Yeah. So that's interesting. I've talked about this a lot, right? And so a lot of people will talk about all these, terrible leaders that they had over the course of their time in the Army, right?
Yeah, 2.5 years in the Army.
Yeah.
I'm a leader.
Well, even you'll hear other people talk about it, be like, "Oh, when I was a private, I had the worst platoon sergeant ever. I had this was terrible, and this was terrible, and this was terrible." And I have not had that experience in the Army. I have been completely blessed with some of the most phenomenal leaders that, I mean, I've just never been able to live up to the level of leaders they were. Starting with Sergeant Lydon. Dude's
beast. He's a great guy.
Dude is, he's exactly what you expect. Because he was my senior scout, and he was just exactly what you expect from a senior scout, a young, aggressive staff sergeant. Then to Staff Sergeant Tate, who brought that compassion with the NCO, where he deeply cared about his soldiers. Then to Staff Sergeant Moats, who I don't know how he did it, but he smelled an IED. Like, no shit, that really happened.
That's crazy. I don't even know how that's possible.
It was 500 pounds of HME.
Jesus.
So, like, after you thought about it, you're like, oh, I can smell it. But, like, we're just walking on patrol, and all of a sudden he was like, do you smell that? And no shit, there was an IED under a bridge.
Dude, that's a big ass IED.
Yeah, there was some real big ones there.
That would have fucked you up.
Oh yeah. And that dude, like, it's like he saw fighting differently than everybody else. He knew when to push. He knew when to flank. He knew when to fall back. And man, just a very, very amazing tactical leader. And then Tony the Barbarian Benaggio, he was my platoon sergeant, phenomenal, aggressive fighter. He's the one who coined the term barrel-chested freedom fighter, I'm pretty sure. Then, of course, when Max Pumphrey was my platoon sergeant, his was just straight the leadership style, like how to influence people, how to just do things right, just being a good dude, I guess, and then taking care of your soldiers and things like that, like yeah, and then of course being a drill, like I saw just some phenomenal leaders there as well in just every aspect. But those are definitely the dudes I think who have had the biggest impact on me. Because I mean, this was 473 Cav. They were the strongest staff sergeants I've ever seen in the Army. You just had these group of.
If you're a staff sergeant and you work for Sergeant Knapp right now, he's dissing you. He said you suck. Well, you got Sergeant Glass and Sergeant McCarthy, right?
I have Sergeant Glass, Sergeant Calkins, and Sergeant Fajardo.
Okay.
Yep. And but yeah, each one of them have impacted me differently. And then Sergeant Moss, my section leader, when I was a sergeant, another dude who he did not fit the Army mold. So when you think about, like, every staff sergeant should be 7 foot tall, barrel chested, carry a 1 million pound rucksack. He was a skinny little dude, but very smart, had a different approach to leadership. And, working hard though. That's what he did.
Mm-hmm.
He was like a diesel engine, just worked all day. Just can't stop him. So each one of these dudes just taught me something different, and I've always taken like a lot of their good attributes and kind of put them towards myself.
What are some attributes that you learned from them?
So Sergeant Moats would be the tactical side of it, tactical discipline, tactical patience, knowing when to fight, when not to fight. Sergeant Benaggio, being aggressive when you need to be and being patient when you need to be, taking care of your dudes, promoting within. Sergeant Moss would just be, caring for people in a different way. Not everything has to be the Army way of caring for your soldiers.
Yep.
There's always outside the box ways. Sometimes like bonding with your dudes is just listening to music. Sergeant Lydon would be that just standards and discipline and like enforcing it.
That.
Yeah.
He's huge on that. Every time we would do IMC,
yeah,
we would have people with beanies, some people with tan beanies, some people with berets. It's like,
take that shit off.
Figure it out. Oh, y'all wear all beanies.
Yeah.
Oh, y'all wear berets.
Yeah.
And nobody's wearing tan beanies. And I'm like,
yeah.
Take it off.
Then, so one of my favorites recently, because we never stop learning and growing, right?
Yeah.
And this is something that I took from Colonel Jones, actually, who was a guest on your show, right?
Yeah.
So, what's that?
Animal.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. He did a lot of really, really great things. Made a very lethal squadron, that's for sure. So one of the things he did, and I've now taken this into one of the things that I do, is he did LPDs, right? Where he would bring the squadron in to make sure that we're all on the same page with all the senior leaders of the squadron. And this was happening regardless of what else was going on, right? There were 24 hours in the day, and like if you needed to work all 24 of them, like this shit was happening, right?
Yeah.
And if it was on the schedule, it was happening. So he would have his LPDs, and sometimes like you'd have to stay late to do this LPD, but he was getting his point across, and that was also important. And one of the things I think that happens is we put things on the training calendar, right? Like LPDs, very important things when they're talked about the right things, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not an LPD.
Not about, like, what the Whirlpool should look like on Monday, like whatever.
Yeah, and sometimes that's important to get everybody on the same page. But like, let's focus on like what makes us better at, doing what we do. Are we all focused on the same thing? And so anyway, I've added these to my training calendar, and regardless of what happens, it's happening. And sometimes you have to be that dude that says, look, man, y'all didn't accomplish your stuff fast enough. This LPD is happening, even if we have to stay late to do it. Mm-hmm. And I liked that about him, that you were going to adhere to his standard or find a new job.
Yeah.
I liked that.
Something that I really liked about him, it was his fascination and his satisfaction in just killing the enemy.
Yeah, absolutely.
The dude, like, he liked the taste of blood in his mouth. He just wanted to fucking kill the bad guy.
Yeah, he was hungry.
He was. Is there someone that you talk to whenever there's something that you have a hard decision to make and you need help trying to figure out? You're like, oh, call this guy or call her and like, listen, this is happening. I need some help figuring this out.
So a lot of times I actually talk to my wife about it, which is funny because she is the most least Army person on earth, right? So not Army that, I mean, she'll have to go to the doctor or whatever and have to call me and be like, what rank are you? And I'll be like, are you serious? Like, you put my rank on. Like, you should at least know this.
You pinned me.
Yeah. I remember the other day somebody asked her what unit I was in, and she goes, the one with the anvil out front.
The one with the what?
The one with the anvil out front.
What is that?
Because we're anvil troop, so we have an anvil out front.
Oh, yeah. I honestly would never understand.
Oh, yeah. And no one else got it either. And so anyway,
I think A troop is Envo troop because you guys all are so heavy. You guys hold everybody back.
huh?
I'm just playing.
Why do they call Bravo bullshit troop then?
We're bulldogs. What are you talking about?
Oh, it's bulldog. I thought it was bullshit this whole time.
Oh wow.
So no, I talked to her because she, number one, she's honest, and will tell you exactly what you don't want to hear.
That's the best people.
Yeah.
Nobody sugarcoat shit.
Yeah, she doesn't sugarcoat anything, and she sometimes gives that outside the box because she doesn't know any Army policies or anything like that. She just gives, she's just a really smart person, and she'll just tell you what she thinks, and a lot of times she's right, unfortunately. But she's right a lot of the times, and yeah.
That's good. So what is your key to success?
My key to success. My key to success would be
Wearing short shorts.
wearing short shorts. The shorter the shorts, the better your leadership.
Wow.
Just
Let's all show up in Ranger pants with PT then.
Yep, absolutely. If I could,
I gotta go to bat for that.
I think it's putting the right people in the right places. Nothing in my platoon is my fault.
What do you mean?
What I mean by all the good things that they've done, like that's not me
Okay.
that did them.
Yeah.
That's the dudes under me that did all that stuff.
But when it's bad, something bad happens, it's on you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just think it's putting the right people in the right positions. And what I mean by that, sometimes you have to take a dude, maybe he's really good with trucks, but he sucks on the ground, right? Well, maybe it's time to put him on the ground
So you can learn.
so he can learn and better round himself. And then sometimes it is the look, motherfuckers, like we're gonna do it this way because I fucking said so. And there's sometimes the pushback, like when I got to 3rd platoon, I changed the PT, right?
Damn, this man coming over here thinking he can change everything.
Yeah,
I want to be fat.
yeah. So it was funny because everybody talks about 3rd platoon's PT, right?
Yeah, even over in Bulldog, you can hear about that shit.
Yeah.
Like,
And what's funny about it is everybody thinks that my platoon was just like, oh, this is gonna be so much fun, it'll be great. That's not at all what happened. I changed PT, and every single one of my NCOs came to me and was like, "Hey, Sergeant, I don't think we should do this. This is kind of ridiculous." And I was like, "I don't care, man. This is what we're doing."
sometimes you gotta do that.
And that happened. I bet it was 2 months before they finally bought into this. We're doing fucking PT every day. If we miss PT, we're going to make it up at the end of the day, or we're going to make it up at lunch, or whatever the case may be. Like, we're doing fucking PT. And it's going to be the hardest, most miserable PT you've ever seen.
I want to be in your squadron whenever you're a sergeant major.
Yeah, because everybody's doing PT. But it's just small things like that. I don't really remember what the original question was, but I think I got off topic.
Yeah,
What made me successful in leadership, right?
Yeah, like what is your key to success?
My key to success.
Short shorts, PT, and putting people in the right spot.
Yeah, and I just think it's. Have you heard the term alacrity?
No, well, I mean, I have, but maybe listeners haven't.
Yeah, so alacrity is the willingness to want to do something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if your soldiers are doing things because you want them to do it, all right, that's cool, but what happens when you're not there? They don't do it.
Yeah.
So you have to build a team that wants to do the right thing because they want to do the right thing, not because of a certain person in charge of them wants them to do it, or even the fact that like they respect you, right? Because maybe they only work hard because they respect the person over top of them, but those aren't lasting results. Because as soon as that figurehead is moved from that platoon, then the standards are gone.
Yeah.
So if you can convince your soldiers, or teach your soldiers, or mentor your soldiers, or whatever the right word is, and get them to want to do the right thing, I think that's the key to leadership.
It's I could see that now. I'm not trying to say that Colonel Brown is a bad leader. He's a great squadron commander.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like ever since like the Colonel Jones left, I feel a lot of people like started to slack a little bit because he was gone. Like, and it's just, obviously it's not Colonel Brown. It's just people. Well, I'm out of shape. I'm gonna go just do this 5 mile run because I'm out of shape, not because I have to. Or I suck at rucking. I'm gonna go do this ruck real quick. Doesn't need to be 12 miles. It can be like 3 or 4 miles with 75-pound ruck. And I'm gonna do it because I fucking suck at rucking, so I'm gonna try to get better. But they used to rely on, oh, I gotta do a 12 mile every month and an 18 mile every 3 months. I think ever since he left, a lot of people started to like slack on doing the right stuff. We're coming to an end. We got one more question, and you guys are probably tired of me saying this every episode, but I'm gonna say it anyways because it's my podcast and I do whatever I want. The reason that people come here and or at least the people I'm trying to target are the people that are struggling right now with they're struggling to find a leadership call or trying to find a leadership style, where they're having some problems with accomplishing something, right? So what is a message or a story that you have to the listeners that can help them face whatever they're going through right now, or whatever difficulty that they're going through to accomplish their objective and goals?
So I think number one is, like I said before, is that like self-realization. Like, where are you at, right? You're probably not as good as you think you are. And it's not good to have or it's not bad to have a big head, right? We should be somewhat arrogant. But also knowing where we are. What do we need to work on? What do we not need to work on? If I'm deadlifting over 400 pounds, do I need to keep deadlifting more, or do I need to like focus on something else? Like, what is good enough, right? Mm-hmm. But I think that trying to figure out your leadership style is really just being a good person. So like if you're being a good person, you work hard and you're constantly trying to learn, you're probably a good leader. Everything else
You also got to be good at PT.
You do have to be good at PT. But people say that, as a joke, but I do really believe that.
Yeah.
It's not that you have to be good at PT. You have to try hard at PT. And I do believe that PT is probably the most important thing we do every day. It starts the day off right. You get a good hard PT session in. I know for me, I tend to work harder throughout the day when I get a good PT session in. Whereas if we have late call for whatever reason and
you show up to work lazy.
Yeah, you show up lazy. It takes you, 2 more hours to like start working because, like, oh, I didn't have enough pre-workout this morning. So now I got to, add it to my coffee or whatever. Right. So I do think PT is extremely important, especially for our job where, people can say like physical fitness isn't a part of it, but like it's a huge portion. It's a huge portion of it. Right. Let's see what else. Leadership. So then like just being a good person, right? Also making hard decisions too. Like what's best for this dude may not be what's best for this other dude. Mm-hmm. You can't say that this one blanket style of getting through to somebody is the way to do it for everybody, because everybody has, different personalities and stuff.
So if someone called you right now and say, hey Cody, I'm going through a hard time, and I got this going on. What are some words that you like tell that person for them to like kind of like motivate them and push them through to go past that burden?
I guess depending on what it is, like everything's going to pass. It might be hard right now, but in 30 days, is it going to matter? In a week, is it going to matter? In a year, is it going to matter? The answer is probably you wish you could have done more, right? I'm going to relate this back to working out again because that's what I do, right? So when you're doing a really hard fucking workout, right? And you end it, especially with like CrossFit, right? Where there's a time cap on it, like 20 minutes is all you get. And you hit 20 minutes and you're not laying on the floor in a pile of your own sweat and wanting to throw up and everything, right? You get done and you're just kind of standing there, and then you're going, did I push hard enough? Right? Did I do everything that I could have done during that workout or not? Because after that 20 minutes, it doesn't fucking matter. So then it goes into like the Army side of it. You know, think about like Team Live Fire. Did I do every fucking thing that I possibly could as a team leader? Because at the end of this live fire run, it doesn't fucking matter. Right? Same thing with the firefight. Did I do everything that I was supposed to do? Because once it's done, it's done. You know, you can't go back and, you know, shoot more bullets or conserve more ammo or do the right things. Like, you know, it's all about just leaving it out there every single time. Just like being on a sports team, right? Leaving it all on the floor. Like every single time you have to do that. Otherwise, like, why are you even doing it? And you're going to look back and regret it. Like, I could have tried harder. Mm-hmm. Sabre Junction, right? We get really, really tired. Really tired.
Sabre Junction.
Yeah.
It's so great.
And during that period when you're really, really tired and you start cutting corners, you're doing it because of right now hurts. But in 10 days, you're not going to be tired anymore. You know, and the next day, maybe you're not going to be tired. Or maybe 2 days or whatever, you're not going to be tired anymore. So was cutting those corners really worth it to get that 5 minutes of sleep? You know? So I think it's all about just that push and that drive. Whatever you're going through, just push through it and leave it all on the mat or leave it all on the court or whatever your sport is, right? Yeah, I would say that would be my advice to get through whatever it is.
Yeah, leave it all on the mat.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Cody Knapp. I really appreciate you coming on and spending some time with us. This is the world's greatest leaders podcast, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.
Airborne.
Well, I hear the devil calling, gotta pay him what he's due. I can't stop the dogs of war. I can't stop the dogs of war.